Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics. We're going to be talking to Marni Jameson about her new book, Rightsize Today to Create Your Best Life Tomorrow. And Marni, as a journalist, as an author and speaker, you've talked about not only this, but empty nesting and kind of downsizing the family home. And these are topics that hit our demographic, whether it's retirement or kids leaving for college or a family member like myself, my mom moving in. These are topics that kind of hit home to our listeners. And I just want to start by saying, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, we appreciate your time. And, the new book, Right Size Today, is a motivational guide for those seeking the ideal home later in life. And I do think a lot of us are now saying, I want to stay here. I don't want to have to move to another home. Or if I do move, this is my last move. So, why write this book now? And what were you hoping that people would get from it?
Great question, Colleen. I would like to start by backing up about how I even got on this
Sure.
whole journey. And I started by writing a book called Downsize the Family Home because I was in, where you are now with your mom. My parents were in their 80s and they could no longer live independently in their home. And we needed, by my dad's choice, my mom wasn't a fan of it, but they needed to move into an assisted living facility. And I was in charge of cleaning out the family home and selling it. It was a small California home, but it had a lot of equity and helping to pay for their long-term care. So I thought, well, I lived in Florida. I was working as a health reporter. I thought I'd take a week off. I'd fly into California. I'd clean out the family home, and that would be that. And it was one of the hardest things, maybe the hardest thing I've ever had to encounter. To take care of your own stuff is hard, but to deal with your parents' belongings, things that they have kept and treasured, you want to be a good steward of their things. You don't know what things are valuable. It's super emotional. You feel responsible. Anyway, I had to write about it. And I was writing a series of columns as I'm a newspaper columnist on the subject. And I was getting bombarded with emails from people saying, oh my gosh, I'm saving all these columns. I'm going through the same thing. I wish I had it 3 years ago. I'm giving it to my kids, la, la, la. So that's kind of what started the whole journey. And then my own life was doing a parallel downsize and a right size, where I had gotten divorced and moved from Colorado to Florida and was, my last child was going off to college. I was becoming kind of an empty nester. And anyway, I was trying to rebuild my life. And then I met a wonderful man and we got married 8 years ago and we had to blend our homes. So I thought I had I'm the home design columnist, right? So I think I have this great stuff. And I live in home stager moreover. I was, fixing up people's homes to live in them and help them sell. So I figured I got this. And he turns out the widower, he had 100% of his belongings. He liked his stuff. I'm like, well, that's inconvenient. So I wrote downsizing the blended home. One house plus one house has to equal one house. When two houses become one, you have to get rid of half a house. So that was a downsizing journey. And when your parent moves in, it's a downsizing blended journey. So you have to make room and edit. So all these things were sort of, rattling through my brain as I was divorcing, remarrying, dealing with my parents and dealing with the stuff in this household and this burden that we carry forward. So tired of writing about death and dying and aging, I decided I would talk about living, hence Right Size Today, to live your best life tomorrow. So I really wanted to look at, gosh, life goes fast, and if you're over 50, maybe you're in the last third or, hopefully more of your life, last half of your life. And you want to really make it great. And maybe this is the time the kids are moving on. And I really started circling around the really big questions of why do you live where you do? And, forgetting like what you live with, because we get there in the third part, but really backing up and saying, did I just land here because I was born here, I grew up here, or my kids went to school here and they no longer go to school here, or for a job I no longer have, or because it was the house I could afford at the time, but now I should afford less or I can't afford more, whatever it is. But you really need to take another look and ask yourself kind of the macro question, like forget how inconvenient it is to move. It's a pain, but that is saying it's too much trouble is not a reason to live an inferior life. So anyway, I'll take a break, but that's kind of what I wanted to do in Right Size Today, is to get people to really pull back and say, what would my dream life look like? And maybe I can get there.
That's what I love about it, the right size, because it's not necessarily telling you that you need to downsize. You don't need this big house because you might like where you live and you might like your house and you might want it for different things. But what I really like is the checklist, the things that you rate about the different locations. Can you talk a little bit about how that works and some of the things included there, just reasons
Yeah,
to relocate?
and that really is the engine that drives the book. So thank you for mentioning that, Bridget. But first, I will define what I define right sizing is moving to or creating a home that is the perfect physical, financial, social, and emotional fit for your life today and moving forward. So all four of those pieces, is it too big or too small? Is it near what you love? Like what fills your soul? Is it going to the opera? Is it going to the beach? I don't know, but you do. Is it emotionally fulfilling for you in terms of being near family? Although 7% of people want to move away from family, and that's all I'll say about that. But you have to decide. And then certainly, financially, it's got to work for you. I mean, no more do you want to work to support your house. Your house should support you. So these are things you need to reckon with and decide what is the best right-sized house for you. And it very well be where you're living now. So that's possible. So the inventory that is really important is, there are a lot of magazine articles out there that talk about where you should retire or where you should best cities to live in. And I don't know about you, but Colleen, Bridget, you and we aren't the same. I may want to live where I see horses in the pasture. You might want to live on the golf course. I don't know. So I don't know how someone can tell me the best place to retire. Only you can tell yourself that. So it's multifactorial, and that's where people get kind of overwhelmed at the thought. They go, oh, well, I really like my local pharmacist. I don't know, whatever keeps them stuck in a place. And so you start rating what is important to you. So the book has questionnaires, and I'm not a math wizard, but you don't have to multiply any higher than 5. 5 times 5 is maybe the highest multiplication you have to do, which is good for me. And then you need to do a little addition. But you actually rate like what's important to you in terms of seasons, in terms of proximity to things you love, in terms of financial cost of living, the political climate, what is important to you. So you write, you rate, political climate, I don't care, I'm a 2. But on seasons, I want 4 seasons, that's a 5. So you rate what's important to you, and then you put it in a chart by cities that you're considering. And it may be anywhere from Midland, Michigan to Santa Cruz, California. I don't know. And then you start evaluating them, and you will do a weighted average, which is a big fancy term for it'll start to add up to say it will declare itself. You might find out you're living in the perfect place. You may go, oh, my place I'm living is so low on the scale of where I could be enjoying my life. So it really helps you define where you should live. And that is the first part of the right sizing puzzle. And I define it in 3 parts. It's where to live, in what, meaning a townhome, a cabin, a large house. What is the right, in what? And then we talk about, as Colleen mentioned earlier, with what, let's outfit the home with the right things and none of the wrong things. So you're living beautifully and simply in a right-sized way.
And I think finances come into such a play for couples and singles as they get older. How do you factor that into the averaging everything?
Sure. So cost of living is huge. And especially if people are looking at segueing into retirement, and what that fixed income looks like, or if they're saving for retirement, they don't want to erode it. So you need to be realistic about that. And my brother, for example, he and his wife, they lived in California their whole lives, and the cost of living is extraordinary. And that's where I grew up, and I'm much happier in Florida, thank you. But they moved to Midland, Michigan, and they're paying their money is going so much farther. And just the example, like they used to pay $100 for a handyman, and now they're paying 25 dollars an hour. So so this little thing, the gas price from $7 a gallon to $3.50 a gallon. So it's just remarkable how much, if you really think about how far your money can go in another place, you can have the quality of life and a lot less of the pressures. But if you've got the money and you love the places that are expensive, then by all means, live your best life.
Right. I love how
But
you brought up, oh, I'm sorry, you brought brother, and you bring up so many good stories in your book, which really share a good example. You kind of hit, your brother and his wife situation, and different people, blended marriages, remarriages of widowhood, after widowhood. And it really is interesting where their priorities lie. Like some want the nice weather, some don't want a yard. Like I don't want a yard. Some want a huge yard with a pool, with everything. So that is really interesting, just the different stories in the situations and how you weigh that.
Thank you. The book is in 3 parts, and the first is you do the work. You think about where you should live, how you should live, why you might want to move, why you might want to retrofit your home to make it more of what you want going forward. And then I like the middle part is the how they did it. Get me out of the way, and let's talk to other people who've actually gone through the change and the transition. And in some cases, it backfires. And that doesn't mean it was wrong for them to move. It just means they didn't stick the landing. They didn't move to the right place. And so it's not that they shouldn't have moved, but they need to move somewhere else. So you got to, course correct and give yourself a little forgiveness. But don't be paralyzed to not do something because you're afraid. And people who moved, I have a study that looked at people who moved in the last 5 years out of state, like changed states. And that was 26% of people who moved in the last 5 years, according to the survey, moved to a new state. That's a big change. And 88% of them were glad they did. So I think 12% of people will just never be happy. So there's that. But I think the ones that, they thought it through, they moved to a new state, and they didn't regret it. And I think that's what we think about is, oh, well, I'd be sorry I did. But, we also talked to a gal who lives in a house she loved, but she was getting older and her knees weren't what they used to be, and her bedroom was upstairs, and she couldn't figure out a way to make her bedroom downstairs, making it the living room into a convalescent room. And so she had an elevator installed, and it's really pretty in her house. So she gets up and down, and she goes, it's great when I go on trips. It's it takes the luggage up and down, and as she gets older in her knees, she just had knee replacements. Just now she goes, I've just added 15 years in this home that I love. And it's near everything I love. So, there are ways to adapt your house as well as, your entire where you live. So
to add on that elevator, I'm like, okay, what was that? Because you were talking about how it's like, I forgot what you even said, like air or
pneumatic, I think.
Pneumatic. Mm-hmm. I was like, maybe my mother-in-law would like that, but I'm trying to figure out now in her condo how that would work. It's like
the company will come in and figure out where your shaft could be. And
wow.
Yeah, you don't have to do that. They'll look at closets and say, oh, because they'll figure it out. But
wow.
It's a big industry.
Yeah.
That ones is in Tennessee.
That would be my worst nightmare, because I'd be afraid of getting stuck in it and no one would know. You're home alone.
Colleen, they have a phone. It comes with a phone installed inside. So
that would just be my nightmare.
Do you have, here I am going on a tangent, but do you have any idea what those cost? Because I'm like, Christmas gift for Judy.
Yeah, it's in the book. I have to go from memory, but I'm thinking between 25 and 40,000.
Okay.
That's Christmas, birthday for the next 10 years.
That's a chunk. That's a chunk, but it's cheap, maybe cheaper than moving.
Sure.
Yeah.
Another thing before we get into what to take, what not to take, and all that fun stuff, you also say beware of the vacation effect. And I think a lot of people, they go somewhere on vacation, they love it, they're like, I'm moving here, without really doing their due diligence. Can you talk about the vacation effect?
Yeah, my next door neighbor is in the story as an example. They were high powered, high octane. He was a news anchor, and she moved commercial real estate in the DC area, and they had a vacation home in Destin, Florida. And she said, we would get there and we put our toes in the sand and our blood pressure would go down, and we loved it. So they decided to retire there and build something bigger than their little second home. And they also moved the husband's mom to the town so they could keep an eye on her because she was getting up in years. and put her in a retirement community. Well, then they decided they were bored to tears. They could not, there was nothing to do. And they're very culturally, intellectually stimulating people. And they were like, it was a snooze. And they were stuck because Jim's mom, I mean, they couldn't move her again. She was established. And so they were just like, well, we'll just wait till she passes and we'll be here for her. Well, she lived to 100. And so that's a good thing, I guess. And then finally, they moved next door to me, but they realized they need something with a little. Winter Park, Florida has a little bit more going on, and it's a beautiful community, but it has some arts, and she's involved in the museum, and she takes painting classes and gardening classes and all that stuff. And anyway, they have a very rich life now, and more friends that are like them. So yeah, they to be very careful not to just go to a place because you love the feeling of your toes in the sand, because you might get bored. And another one reminded me that you go to the resort and there's a cabana boy who brings you your Mai Tai and fluffs your towel and gives you poolside service. That doesn't happen when you move there, in your backyard.
You
are the cabana boy.
yeah.
So yeah, don't confuse those good feelings with real life.
Yes. Yeah, that was really in another one. And I also do want to get into the things, but was the couple that bought two places.
Yeah,
I love that too. About that.
Yeah, Katie and Thad, they had a beautiful home, large home, where they raised 3 children and had a pool, and it was on a lake, and it was just a gorgeous home. And the kids, of course, wanted them to hold on to it forever because they were going to bring the grandchildren there. Well, the grandchildren never come. The kids are in Wisconsin and Chicago. They have jobs, they have vacation time, and they're Katie and Thad with this huge house and all this upkeep in the yard. And they're like, this is nuts. So they sold the house, and it's worth, it's in a good house, and they bought 2. So they got a small house here in Florida, which is where they have all their friends, and they've been in this community for many, many years, and are really quite integral in the community. Actually, they're very involved. But they got a little house with 0 plot, 0 line plot, whatever. No maintenance, lock and go, but the kids can still come there and go to Disneyland and do whatever they need to do, but it's very low maintenance. And then they got another house up in Wisconsin, Chicago area, that it's a smaller kind of a bungalow, but they can see their kids, the grandkids can come over, and they got 2 for 1, which is so smart. And of course, then you've got the seasonal thing where you can be in Wisconsin in the summer and avoid the Florida heat, and then be here in the winter. So that was also really thought through well. And yeah, there's just so many ways you can shake it up. And I just wanted to get people thinking outside of their little 4 square box and thinking, maybe I could too. And I think if I do anything, it's just to get people to imagine a better life. And then we talk about what's standing between you and that better life. And we can get to that question in a minute. But I think that I like to say, make the decision in a moment of peace and clarity, and then don't change your mind in a moment of panic when you're actually going through it.
Yeah.
Because so often you're on the road, you're like, what am I doing? Don't rethink it in a moment of weakness, what you've decided in a moment of strength.
That's a good point. Part 2 is how they did it. And you do use a lot of examples of couples that did it. But gosh, it would be, I think for a lot of people that are starting on even the empty nest track, they just look at all these memories and they're like, I can't give these memories up. So how do you do that?
That is the $1 million question. Yeah. And that's really baked into everything. As we get older, we see the memories are more precious, and we have more things that remind us of those memories. And we somehow think that getting rid of the thing is somehow going to just ban the memory. And I think that is the most important takeaway, is that memories live in your heart. You get to take those with you. And yes, I won't deny that there is a connectivity effect when you see something and it trips a fond memory. So I say keep the pearls and not the piano, right? He keeps a few small cherished things that will trigger some special feeling or some special memory of a person. But when everything is important, nothing is important. It just bogs you down. So go on a treasure hunt, take the 5 things that you know, if your kids' school memories or whatever, or whatever you want to remember about them. And I mean, they're still alive, one hopes, and you can still have them in your lives. But you know, you don't save every Cub Scout uniform and every every art piece from preschool, for heaven's sakes. It's just going to bog you down. So yeah, I think memories are. I also like to think about having, I've created a workbook that it's a downsizing the family home workbook where you can put a picture of the grandfather clock and where it went, what church it went to, or what home it went to. And you don't keep the clock anymore. The wedding dress, you take a picture of mom in the wedding dress, maybe a swatch of the wedding dress, and that you donated it to a theater department. So you start having a journal and a scrapbook of where things are and what you did and how it felt and who you sold it to. And move on and reduce the clutter.
You talk about how keeping up with maintenance as you're going along with your house, because that's going to be a difficult home to sell if it's got all these problems. So can you talk about the importance of that?
Deferred maintenance is a big problem, and we need to keep our houses not only up in sound repair, because that will ding you on a resale, but also up to date just physically, because it really, and again, I'm the home design columnist. I'm a live-in home stager. I have been for, and I help stage homes for sale. It matters. And people go, oh, I'll let the new people figure out what kind of flooring, or I'll let the new people paint. That's lazy. You paint, you refloor, you figure it out, you bring it up to date. And I know it costs something and you might go, oh, money's tight, but you're going to make it up in a faster sale at a higher price. Guarantee you, unless you paint your walls, petunia purple or something, you're going to recoup it, because people want turnkey. They have enough to deal with the move of getting things unpacked and where's this going to go and where's my schools and where's my job and where's my hairdresser. They don't want to think about also what is the flooring choice here. So keep things up to speed. Make sure there's nothing that's going to subtract, because they will subtract a lot if they have to replace a roof or an air conditioning system or something that's not working. So one of the things that even Katie and Thad did, I can't remember if I mentioned it in the book, but they had a pre-sale inspection of their home.
Yeah.
And they ran the traps and actually found that they had some kind of piping that was going to need to be replaced, some kind of a plastic piping that they put in the houses at that time in the 80s when it was built, and that doesn't pass code anymore. So they had to, before they put the house on the market, they had to break into the walls and replace all of this piping. They were, of course, not happy with the information, but glad they knew, because then it could all be done in pristine and in sell-ready condition. So all that really matters. And kind of on that path of your question, Bridget, was an ongoing process. As I don't like to think of downsizing or right sizing as a one-time effort. I like to think of it as a lifestyle. So you constantly should be looking at purging and winnowing out and editing. Just keep it up with it. Like someday just go, okay, this is the last day I'm going to look at this linen closet in this condition, rip everything out and go through what do you really need, use, love, and donate the sheets to, I just found out this World Relief, you don't have to be religious at all, but the Lutheran Church has this huge quilting program. They want your old sheets, and they make these sheets and they give them to some central dispatch in Europe that sends them around the world to kids in Tanzania who are so cold they're not growing. So and also into Ukraine, where they've lost their homes due to war and they need quilts. I mean, it's really cool. And you can wait, I can clean out my linen closet and help those in Ukraine and help kids freezing in Tanzania whose whatever they eat is going to keep their bodies warm and not to growth or cognition. It's really horrible. So anyway, I digress, but consistently be winnowing out, editing, trimming down, scrolling back your belongings. I keep a box in the garage. I keep a bag in my closet. And, when I look at something, I'm like, this is the last day. This is the last day for this. This is going to Goodwill. And then when I get a massive quantity, off it goes.
That's a great way to make it easily accessible. So you don't have to say, oh, I really need to clean my closet out. Oh, I can just take this and put it here. Making it as simple as possible. I think that's a really good suggestion. You also talk in part 2 about kind of the guidelines when you're either when you lose a spouse. Now, again, it could also be divorce, I guess, for that. But you kind of give 8 guidelines when transitioning through loss. And I thought we could talk about that as well, because a lot of people have really difficult times with their coming back to their home once they've lost a spouse.
And there's no timetable on that. It's so hard. And everyone needs to respect and honor their own journey and not judge somebody else's quickness or slowness to accommodate. But we do have a dear man who, gosh, it was the sweetest letter. He was 83. He'd lost his wife of 50 years or more, I think. And he wanted to be respectful of her, but he didn't really want to live with the doilies and the flowered pillows anymore. And he was reaching out for help. And we walked through that. And what about her clothes and her closet? He was usually in the hall closet. She had the walk-in, and he didn't want to. Oh, it was just the sweetest thing. And time goes by. He made some changes, as we discussed. I'm like, you can have the big closet now, and her stuff can go to help somebody else's wardrobe. And now he's met someone, and he's traveling with her, and she's also lost a husband, and they have a life together, and they're not living together yet, but that may be in the future. And we kind of walk through these times, don't we? So I think the really important thing, and I remind myself, is we get stuck in stages, and life changes. We can't stop that. And that's one of the things that hold people back, is they're afraid of change. Well, it's coming for you anyway. So roll with it, and don't let the fear of change stop you, because it's going to take you down. So we are new career people, newlyweds, widows, divorcees, in the working world, not in the working world, moms, empty nesters, retirees. We are all these things. And you can't, if your kids have kids and you still have their scout uniforms and their hockey sticks, you have issues. Move on. You're not that mom anymore. So live who you are today. Look in the mirror and say, okay, this is my age and this is my stage, and embrace it, because living in the past robs you of the present.
Yeah. You also said something about with the kids, things that you give them a certain amount of time and then it's out. And I'm trying to remember the amount of time you said. I can't remember what you said.
You can make it up, but you are not your kid's storage facility. That's the bottom line. They move on to a small apartment. And I remember I had a leg cast because I broke my leg when I was a little girl, and I saved it. And my mom was like, "Can we please get rid of your cast?" No, it's important to me. I don't have a place for it, but you keep it. And I came across it when I cleaned their house. I'm like, oh my gosh, my parents had no business keeping all this stuff of mine. But you have to, tell your kids, look, I am not your storage unit. I really do want to turn your bedroom into a gym. And I mean, this is about me now. And you can either take it all, or you can trust me to donate it. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
I made the mistake. My daughter, when she graduated from college, I said, okay, can I clean out your closet? She said, and get rid of any t-shirts except for concert ones. Well, there was one shirt that did not look like a concert at all. It just had a symbol. Gave it to Goodwill. And she said, that was my shirt, and it's worth $125. And I was like, you should have gotten it. Yeah,
Maggie, you should have taken it with you.
Should have taken it. Yeah, somebody got a good deal at Goodwill, so good for them.
What about you talk about living more and owning less, and you talk about 6 ways to live better with less. Can you share some of those ways that, because people really there's so many emotional attachments to things. It's hard to give them up, but it almost is freeing when you do it. It's not almost,
yes.
It's kind of freeing when you do it.
It is freeing. And I mean, lightening up your life is really, really important. I think one of the big takeaway in part 3 of this book is a little bit of great beats a lot of mediocre. And if you surround yourselves with quality and not quantity, your life is going to improve a lot. So how do you do that? And so I believe, having thought about why our houses are such a mess, I think we buy things because we don't know what properties we really want in that item. What makes a great towel? What makes a great kitchen knife? What makes a great soap? We believe the branding. We buy on impulse. It was a sale. Whatever. And our houses fill up with things that we don't need, use, and love. But they aren't too old to get rid of, and they still might have a purpose, but we're not really sure. But we don't really love them, but we still hang on to them. And our closet has shoes that we don't wear because they're uncomfortable, but they're brand new. And maybe I'll, wear them. Stop. Get rid of what isn't working for you and learn how to buy right the first time. So I think that's even the name of the section, is Buy It Once, Buy It Right, which I wanted to do a whole book out of that, which I still might. But that was my initial impetus for an entire book, was Buy It Once, Buy It Right. And I do in part 3 go through every room in the house and say, okay, how do we do mattresses and pillows and sheets and towels? Let's get the bedroom wonderful. And no, get sheets that don't breathe, or that they pill, or the contour sheet doesn't fit, so they spring off in the middle of the night. No, get rid of those sheets that aren't working for you, and use the ones that are really high quality and deliver and do their jobs. And that's true of wine glasses and cutlery and upholstered furniture. I'm asking you to take some time to learn about the properties that you're looking for, not so much the sizzle and the branding or the celebrity identification, but what makes a great anything? What makes a great piece of furniture? What makes a great mattress? What makes a great wine glass? All those things. And then you can more easily say, oh, this doesn't pass muster. This I can get rid of because I have this, which I know is really good. So that little trick, not such a little trick, that really philosophy and way of consuming and editing your belongings, and makes for a neat, clutter-free, higher quality life.
Right. I think it was, I can't remember the exact word. I can't afford to be cheap, or I can't afford
I'm too poor to buy cheap clothes.
That was it. Yeah. Because, like your example with the soap was, well, this bar's heavier. It's going to last longer. It's not going to split. You might be paying this much more for this one bar, but this bar is going to last you a longer amount of time. Your furniture is going to last you longer if it's well made and stain free, and all of the, against, and how to even get your rugs cleaned. I mean, I was like, wow, there was things in there.
It's very thorough.
It's very thorough, but
Thank
it's
you.
easy to read. It's thorough, but it's very easy. And it's very easy to find what you need. So that's what the thing with the rug, and taking it to the cleaner, or not even cleaner, what was it? Washer, a washer. Yeah. I was like, I did not know you could do that. That is wild.
Life changing. And sometimes you can clean on the spot. Something come in and do, but if it is filthy, off it goes. And I thought, there'd be 2 men with a hose in the driveway. I'm like, I'm going to go really see. So I went to the facility, and it is a whole machine that takes your sloshes and washes and dries. And it is pretty cool. Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah, you do a whole chapter on the importance of tea towels. You do, flatware, and kind of, for a lot of people who are overwhelmed in the moment, this is great, because you're giving them the guidance of saying, okay, pick, even in your closet, pick 33 pieces and wear them for the next how many weeks. And if you like those are the pieces you keep. It's, kind of solutions that we don't have to think of. Because I think when you do get overwhelmed, you tend to just walk away and say, I'll deal with this at another time.
You bring up an important point I like to think about as I'm editing my own things, is choose to keep rather than choose to let go. So take all your stuff out of the pantry, for instance. If you have not your food so much, well, you can do that too, but maybe your serving pieces, just in all the candlesticks and platters and punch bowls and whatever, and just go shopping. And so everything is like a neutral, and then go shopping. What would I buy again? What do I use? What am I going to need going forward? And choose to keep things that really will make a difference and will be useful in your life. and then get rid of everything else. But what we tend to do is the opposite. We look at everything and try to pick out what we can get rid of, instead of looking at everything and just picking back what we need in our lives going forward. And you will flip the ratio and get rid of a lot more. And another thing is, people like, oh, what if I need it? Or what if I just can't live without it? Or what if I regret giving away? I like, having been divorced, I like trial separation. Okay, take a trial separation from these things, put it in the garage, and like, okay, I'm not giving it away yet. But if I find out in 3 months that I haven't had a heart attack because I didn't have this item, maybe I can live without it.
You also talk about the importance of your bedroom and how to keep it, decluttered and simple, and also pick a room in your house that's your favorite room. I mean, there's so many good tips in this book about, just getting your house to be yours, to really feel like it's a sanctuary and it's somewhere that you appreciate being in, as opposed to being like, oh, I've got to clean this. Oh, I've got to organize that. Can you talk about that mindset as we get older? Because I do think a lot of people just kind of walk through a room and don't even look at what's in there.
So, as I mentioned, when I moved from, I was actually living in Colorado to Florida 12 years ago now. I had this big home, and I couldn't afford to buy a new home, and I wasn't sure what my life was going to look like. So I became a live-in home stager, and I fell into this cool deal where I used my furniture to decorate homes that were problematic and were challenged properties. And I learned how to live with, I kept paring things down and really learning how to live with less. So I had to keep my house show ready from 9 to 6. I'd go to work and the house would get shown by brokers. And I would come home to a beautiful house every day because I needed to leave it spotless. That was my job as a home stager. And I learned that is the way to live. Live like you're selling. Live like your house is going to be shown in 15 minutes. Now, it's not honest if I look around my desk, but it can be like that in a snap. I can tidy up in a snap and make it show ready. And you are the most important person who lives in your home. So treat yourself like a valued guest and come home to something you love every day. It takes effort. You can't slough off. But, it was my job, right, to keep this perfect. Like, I'd put a bow on the towels. There would be no scum in the soap dish. No spots on the counter, no dishes left out. It was perfect. And it's not that hard. It just isn't. And I even had a teenager living with me at the time. We did it. We can do it. So of course, now I'm married with someone who doesn't always share my standards, and that's okay. But we're working on it. But it's a goal, and it's not impossible at all. It's very realistic to really come walk through your house as if it were for sale and you were someone coming in looking to buy it or getting a feel, and how a house lives and is staged does heavily influence the emotions of people that walk in. You can make a place really undesirable easily with clutter and scents and discordant colors. So yeah, live like you're selling. Try to make a good impression on yourself and for others.
And that's another thing you include on how to have your house look as if it's ready to sell. If you are selling, the things about personal and religious and political things, to just remove them. Yeah. Yeah.
And pets. I mean, I love my dogs.
Really? Yes. Yeah. Make it look like the pets. No litter box.
Pet.
Yeah, I used to drive around when we were selling our house with the litter box in the trunk of my car. I would just put it in the trunk of my car and take the animals and let's just go for a drive, Not the pets were not in the trunk of the car, just the litter box was in the trunk of the car. So.
Yeah, you don't have to go to that extreme every day, but yeah, that's the idea.
If it was showing, it's like it's in the trunk of the car. So.
Smart. And you sold. So there you go.
We sold it. Yeah.
Marni Jameson, Rightsize Today to create your best life tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing all of this information with us. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.